But I mean, the repression, you can see it everywhere around you in Syria, to the point that, like, even your own parents wouldn't talk to you about politics because they would fear that the regime is listening, that you would see your neighbor being kidnapped in the middle of the night by the regime. And the hurtful thing is the Syrian regime back then, I mean, the Assad regime, used Palestine as a way to oppress its own people. Used that as a defender of the Palestinian cause, you cannot oppose it. And that what made so many Palestinians also revolt against the regime. Because Assad regime also committed massacres against Palestinians in Lebanon, like in Tel Zatar, or covering for the different Lebanese, like right-wing militias committing also violence against Palestinians. So that was, I think, part of the reasons why I felt that I was then like 16, 17 years old, but I felt that I needed also to join Syrians in their revolution against that regime that's using Palestine to go after its own people.
And so you took part in some protests and then left. Could you just give us a little more about that?
Yeah. So back then, in 2011, Palestinian refugee camps became sort of refugee centers for Syrians. So the regime, for example, would attack a Syrian town around us. So most Syrians would take refuge in the Palestinian camps because they had some sort of an autonomy. Like, I wouldn't say like a big autonomy. Like, they were a little bit different from a Syrian community. So a lot of Syrians would come to the Palestinian refugee camps, take refuge in the schools, in the mosques. And that when I started volunteering in these shelters, helping out Syrian displaced persons, and then from there organizing, like just political events, until in 2013, two of the people I was organizing with, they were kidnapped off the street. So the next day I had to flee to Lebanon, just fearing that I'm next on the list. And I stayed in Lebanon for 10 years, where I did my undergrad, and then I worked there for a number of years.